Hello, and welcome to Community Inc. This episode is all about how Sam Parr built an $8 million network of high-growth founders. Hampton is a highly vetted peer membership community for founders. Created by Sam Parr, named for the Hustle newsletter and host of the My First Million podcast, he started working on it with partner Joe Spicer in June 2022. It launched publicly in March 2023 and has since grown to over 1,000 members, generating around $8 million in ARR. And they're just getting started. Some says this is going to be a greater than $100 million a year business. In this deep dive, we uncover how Sam Parr and team built a $1 million community in a matter of months, even before it had officially launched. Here's what to expect. How Hampton community got started, the value it offers its members, how Hampton makes money, the tactics used to grow its membership, and the tool stack it uses to power it all. Community for founders and issues you can't Google. Hampton is named after Hampton Avenue, a street in Missouri where Sam grew up. It got off to a quick start, acquiring their first paying members 1 month in, before they even had a website. Sam's insight was that there was a bunch of 20 to 40-year-old founders of digital businesses, not just in hubs like LA, San Francisco, or New York, but places like Idaho or New Haven, and they feel lonely. They're business leaders, so they can't be too vulnerable in front of staff, and yet every day they're tackling problems that you can't Google or ask about on social media. Stuff like, how do I negotiate without looking desperate? What's the best way to lay off someone? Or am I paying myself fairly? Plus, they're scared. They're constantly asking themselves, is this thing going to work? Or will I make payroll this month? Who can share these fears and issues with, who will understand? Fellow founders. So Sam started Hampton to be kind of like group therapy for CEOs. A community for people who grow and build companies to collaborate with and connect. Origin story. At just 35, Sam has been busy. He's run a chain of hot dog stands, Sub and Thams, as well as an online liquor store. His first foray into tech was with a roommate matching startup called Bulk, which was acquired. He then went on to run an event series, HustleCon, which got popular because of a newsletter he wrote to promote it. That newsletter would become The Hustle, one of the fastest growing media companies in the US, with more than 3.5 million readers a day. He bootstrapped that and sold it to HubSpot for tens of millions of dollars. While creating The Hustle, he also hosted the popular My First Million podcast, alongside its creator, John Priory, which is now owned by HubSpot, with Sam getting paid to host it. As you dig into his past, creating Hampton seems like a perfect fit. While running HustleCon for around 5 years, he used to get guests to come along a few hours early to mic check, except there was no mic check. It was just a way for him to hang out and learn from successful business leaders behind multi-billion-dollar companies like Grammarly, WeWork, and Casper. When Sam says, I've been working on it since July, but I've had the idea for a long time, you can see why. Through those experiences and successes, he's built up a network of wealthy founders. Plus, he's run a bunch of communities too, including Trends, that's part of The Hustle, and that alone was doing millions in recurring revenue when he sold it. As The Hustle scaled, and Sam needed to solve all kinds of new problems, he leaned on a group of peers, including Sean, and would meet up once a month to share their problems and stresses of growing their businesses. Sam describes that group as being life-changing, and reflecting on just how important it was for him, gave him the idea for Hampton. Well, what would people always want? They're always going to want to connect with like-minded people who are of a high caliber, and they're always going to want that to be easy. They're always going to want accountability, they're always going to want to feel less alone, said Sam. But the idea wasn't some bolt from the blue. There are already some successful community businesses and non-profits servicing this group. Communities like the Young Presidents Organization, or the Entrepreneurs Organization, focused on chief executives. There's Chief, which is specifically for women, C-suite and VP execs. And there's Vistage too, who serve CEOs, business owners and key executives of all genders. These businesses do hundreds of millions in revenue, but many have been around for over 60 years, and it shows. They have a particularly old-school vibe, catering to enterprise business execs and wealthy real estate owners. If you inherited an apartment block in New York, you might tick the membership requirement boxes for Hampton, but you probably have little in common with Sam's audience of newly minted tech CEOs. Kickstarting Hampton in stealth mode. Initially, founders weren't the target audience, though. Originally, they started with marketing executives, and then just executives in general. They did 50 to 70 meetings with people trying to convince them to join. None of them wanted it, so eventually they got enough to kickstart a group. They were willing to pay $500, and it was like, dude, this sucks. They set their sights wider, considering folks like doctors and Fortune 500 CEOs, but soon realized they didn't know much about them or where to find them, so ended up focusing on an audience they did know well. Founders. The business got started in a lo-fi way. I created a Google Doc that aligned what it was, and at the bottom of the Google Doc was a type form that says, if you're interested, fill this out. Send it to 50 people on Twitter in their DMs. Anyone who expressed interest, Sam would Zoom or phone to interview them and figure out whether they're a match. If they were accepted, he'd follow up with a Stripe link. At least initially, it was Sam or Joe who watched all of the member interviews and made the call. They're the only people who click approve or deny, says Sam. That's how they got to hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in revenue. No website, no software, just a few docs and DMs. And it continued to be very manual for its first few hundred members. As each new member came on, they say it would take 30 days or so before they could onboard them. In the meantime, they went out, found the executive coaches they needed as facilitators, who they would train before kicking off their first meeting. How Hampton works. The offer. By the time Hampton launched publicly in March 2023, they'd already signed up 300 paying members. These early members include the likes of Morning Brews Austin Reef, CB Insights Anand Sanwal, Fresh Clean Teas Melissa Parvis, and Hootsuite's Ryan Holmes. Sam's network clearly gave him an edge, but what were folks signing up for? The main offer is known as the Hampton 5. Core groups, digital community, in-person community, speaker series and education, and exclusive perks. Core groups. Once you join, you're put into a hand-curated group of 5 to 8 people. That size isn't based on anything in particular, I just made it up, admits Sam. I just thought that seems like a nice number. New groups are launched quarterly in January, April, July and October. They're formed by considering each member's locale, industry, business stage, business model, and member preferences. Each group gets an executive facilitator and meets once a month. In reality, they meet around 10 times per year, with flexibility around summer months and winter holidays. Core group meetings are 2 hours long, though they've experimented with 3 hours in the past. Topics vary, but include things like doing a SWOT analysis of your business, going through all the financials, or doing a portfolio breakdown of their net worth, and asking the group for their feedback. Sam says you have a person on the team who just talks to the facilitators constantly, so after every meeting, they'll do a catch-up with them and figure out what's going on. How's the group? What do you need to make this more cohesive? And then we also get survey results from attendees after each meeting. These group meets are the core of the Hampton experience, so they take them seriously. If someone has a bad experience, below like an 8, we message them and be like, hey, what happened? Why was this not good? And then we act really quickly in order to make it awesome, says Sam. Digital community platform. In addition to your core group, you also get access to their digital community platform. There are 2 parts to this. A Slack community that is used by around 85% of members. This is for daily chatting and knowledge sharing of tactical, high-level insights. For example, someone asked about the best practices for hiring and onboarding executive assistants. The thread got 20 or so responses, so they decided to set up a Zoom call to go deeper, showing the exact systems they use to source and manage them. It's not all about business though. Beyond the general and introduction channels, there's one on parenting, discussing raising genuine good kids and sharing fun moments. He also custom built a portal made with Bubble that includes a vetted vendor list and an events calendar. There's a member directory. You can see where members are based on the map and request an introduction via the concierge. Concierge is someone on staff who members can message and ask for intros to those with specific expertise or knowledge to facilitate connections with them. Across the platforms, engagement is around 90%. In-person community. There's also an in-person aspect of the community, largely based around events that aims to foster connection and build relationships. This focuses on 3 areas: monthly member dinners, annual retreats, and local adventures. Depending on your location, they aim to host 2 to 4 dinners per year. In December 2023, they got around 250 Hampton members in one evening, across 25 dinners in 19 different cities. Over the year as a whole, they organise around 150 dinners, and they take a lot of work. Jessica Lowenstein, head of community and events at Hampton, says, "Put a lot of thought into where people sit. So when guests strike up conversation and realise they have a ton in common, this isn't by accident, there's a lot of thought behind it." Annual retreats are 2-day get-togethers for around 24 to 30 people. They began running grouped retreats in October 2023. Now all members have the opportunity to attend a retreat with their core group and fellow Hamptonites within their first 6 months of membership. This includes events like a mindful leadership retreat, as well as culinary experiences, concerts, etc. Well, Adventure Days consist of activities like rally car racing, mountain biking, lobster diving, anything your blood gets flowing a little bit, says Sam. Speaker series and education. Laid across its digital and in-person communities is its speaker series. They host unique workshops to bring in guest speakers to discuss a range of topics. Past guests include Patrick Campbell of Profitwell, Kat Cole of Athletic Greens, and Jasmine Starr, our social curator. These cover mostly tactical topics such as Beyond the Book series, where they interview authors of favourite business books, like Andy Dunn, writer of Burn Rate. Exclusive perks. Lastly, the vendor list in the portal includes exclusive discounts which members can use to save money on popular software tools and apps. Member requirements. Currently, Hampton is mostly focused on the US, but members can be in Mexico, the UK, and Canada too. Members are highly vetted, but what does that actually mean? Well, when Hampton launched, you needed to either build a company with $1 million plus in revenue, raise $3 million in funding, or sold a business for at least $5 million. But as of September 2024, you need $3 million in revenue, or $10 million from a past exit. The average revenue per member is around $23 million. Raising member requirements is something they have wanted to do for a while. Sam says that in December 2022, so before they even publicly launched, they changed our requirements to $1 to $2 million, but we got scared and quickly went back after a couple of weeks. Regardless, if you meet the requirements, they'll confirm you're running a digital-first business, then there's a culture fit interview, and your application goes through a series of additional steps. They claim to accept less than 8% of applicants, and everyone in Hampton also signs a confidentiality pledge too. The member base is mostly men, with women representing around 15%, though Joe says that index is 3x higher than the industry average. Pricing. During its beta phase, it seems like they experimented with a variety of price points, including $3,000 per year. However, by launch, pricing was set at $8,500 per year, and it's now $9,500, and they don't do discounts. The pricing strategy was informed by Sam's prior experience with running the Trends community. Trends was a weekly email, but they created a Facebook group as an afterthought, said Sam. That became the best part of the product, but we screwed up. I charged $300, which was really stupid because I couldn't afford to provide certain services. It also meant that they needed tens of thousands of members and a small staff to build a substantial sized business. Sam's advice? If you want community to be the business, you should probably charge more than you think, because then you can provide a better service. Growth. Initially, they acquired members through the founding team's network. This was a point of pride for Sam. I thought I was a loser, and I was like, I could only build a business if I tell my audience about it. Fuck that. I've got to prove that I could do it. So they set out to grow organically by DMing peers and through word of mouth, which got them to 270 members at launch. Then in March 2023, they launched publicly and announced it on Twitter. On the My First Million podcast, they got some press coverage and mentioned it during multiple podcast appearances. That worked. They got over 3,000 new applications on the first day. 2 weeks later, that was up to 5,000. And by August 2023, they had around 6,000 applicants. It seemed a big chunk of those applications were from folks who didn't qualify though. As from June 2023, they first mentioned a waitlist of 2,000 applicants. Either way, by August 2023, paid membership had grown to almost 500 members. Skipping forward to July 2024, they claim 1,000 plus members. However, in August 2024, they stated that they had 95 plus core groups of 5 to 8 members, including 10 to 20 new groups per quarter, which suggests it might be a little lower. Since Hampton membership is something of a status symbol, many members list membership on their LinkedIn profiles. Mapping public mentions of membership size to LinkedIn growth matches surprisingly consistently to around 1 in 3 members adding it to their profile. For now at least, it seems that demand outstrips supply, seemingly confirmed by the price increases and the higher earnings requirements. Sam thinks that this is a business that can last for decades, and he's building it with that in mind. They haven't taken any outside investment, so don't have any external pressure to grow at a pace that doesn't work for them. We see pretty steady, controlled growth of around 7 to 8% each month, or around 20 to 50 members. Factoring in member fee changes, current revenue is estimated to be around $8 million per year. Acquisition channels. Sam suggests that my name will get us the first 1 to 3,000 customers, but then it's very easily going to outgrow me. They've made their first moves towards planning for that by hiring a growth marketing lead, content lead, and a part-time content writer to build out a marketing team. The marketing activity focuses on content marketing. This is primarily reports that leverage unique insights from its member base. We've created these cool surveys, and so we have a lot of founders who have high net worths. We'll ask them all types of questions that people typically are embarrassed to ask, but provide a lot of value. So things like how much the founder pays themselves each month, how much they're going to spend each month. The resulting reports include the state of South, as well as salary and compensation, and more niche reports digging into trends like AI or specific categories like e-commerce, agencies, or wealth allocation. They also publish a regular series of member profiles, exploring their past experiences and business lessons. Focusing on this type of content is a smart move, since it's unique. Nobody else has access to that network of people, and directly highlights the value of having access to a group of people like that. Many of its reports are gated, providing an email address puts you into a lead nurture flow. They share other reports and encourage you to attend an open house event to learn more and ask anything about Hampton membership. They're low-key, personable emails that leverage Sam's popularity and share testimonials for members on the value they get from the community. You also send a couple of DMs on LinkedIn too, with messages aimed at playing into the egos of potential members, offering to fast-track you because you'd be such a good fit. Other marketing includes an email newsletter, and it does some paid marketing across social, SEM, and other newsletters too. Their paid ads on LinkedIn, for example, mostly focus on the value prop of connecting with like-minded people. Back in January 2024, they launched a podcast, MoneyWise, with Morning Brew. They're 21 episodes in and get 20 to 40,000 downloads per episode. This again leverages their member base, with high net worth guests discussing the realities and challenges of being wealthy, like raising kids, dating, liquidity, and other issues. Topics that Sam says, if done incorrectly, can really make us sound like an ass, but are rarely discussed in a public setting. Member referrals are an important channel. They have a dedicated sign-up page to fast-track such applications. This is something they've hired someone to build out and grow to increase qualified prospects and also reward current members. Many of their members also have large online followings, so they intend to create an influencer program too, encouraging members to advocate on their behalf. Community management. Hampton is a very operational heavy thing, says Sam. There's its member base, which is comprised of founders who used to the finer things and have a staff of people making sure their daily lives run as smoothly as possible. There's also its network of facilitators, which needs wrangling. And as Jessica notes, managing all of its events and retreats is logistically really complicated too. As of April 2024, they're on track to run around 200 events per year. Staff. Managing all of this is a staff of around 16 people currently, working for Hampton across both full-time and part-time roles, up from 8 in March 2023, as well as 55 plus contractors. These include a community team, where they have a head of community, program manager, events coordinator, community manager, and event and experience designer. There's an ops department with an automation specialist and a virtual assistant. There's a marketing team of growth marketing lead, and content writer, and there's a sales team too, with a director of member sales and a membership associate. Early on, Sam hired a CEO to oversee the day-to-day management of the company. This was around March 2023, so under a year since the company began. I'm really good at getting things to 1 to 5 million a year in revenue, says Sam. Then I'm really good at hiring executives to make it much larger. To do that, Sam turned to Jordan D. Pietro, who had previously led the hustle through its acquisition and transition period at HubSpot. Facilitators. Facilitators are its biggest cost. They're mostly executive coaches, and we pay a lot of money for them, remarks Sam. They run the group meetings, both guiding and participating in those conversations. A lot of them are ex-entrepreneurs and act as glorified therapists. They're trained and are there to handle the logistics of ensuring all members are there, but also use their expertise to know the topics to focus on, get people to open up, and encourage others to share their opinions. As of August 2024, they have 45 plus facilitators. Outsourcing. They outsource some areas of the business. For event logistics, they work with an agency called Marco. They handle the nitty-gritty retreat planning and execution, such as the hour-by-hour logistics, like managing transportation for guests, liaising with vendors, etc. Jessica notes that being able to outsource this gives the Hampton team more bandwidth for community building during and after the retreats. It makes its events program sustainable with a lean team. They also outsource aspects like editing and scripting for its podcast, an agency to manage its paid marketing spend. And some says they hired branding agencies early on, which is something I never thought I would do. Paid $15,000 for the branding agency, tasking them to create a visual identity that was both elite but cheeky, says Sam. It definitely felt so indulgent, but thinks investing in a solid brand early was the right move, especially given his conviction in the business and its early traction, noting that he didn't want to launch something he'd only need to come back later and fix up. Automation. Seemingly an acknowledgement of the logistical challenges of running a business like this, its first hire was an automation specialist. They work alongside another automation specialist and an agency partner. A lot of the work focuses on Zapier, HubSpot workflows, and custom API integrations to automate aspects of sales, member experience, and community. For instance, they've automated the sending of swag and made it so that staff can trigger swag boxes to be sent out with a button click inside of the tools they use every day, like Airtable. Other automations are used to nudge members in Slack, reminding them if a client is awaiting a reply or a task is overdue. Or for things like suggesting a new member joins the parenting channel if they mention being a parent in their intro message. Tooling. While the community itself runs on Slack for discussions, Zoom for video calls, and their own bubble-powered portal, they leverage many tools to run the business side of things too. The Hampton website runs on Webflow. Behind the scenes, they're using HubSpot as their CRM, with some notes that they got for free from the acquisition. They also use HubSpot landing pages for some of its member surveys and to understand the sources of signups. Stripe is used for payment. They have a ton of automations built with Zapier. Threadio is also used for automating aspects of community and support too, and they leverage SwagUp for member swag fulfillment. Sales use Salesflow to power their LinkedIn and email outreach, while a lot of the member management and processes use Airtable. Finally, the company wiki is on Notion. The scale concern. Despite these investments, structuring Hampton to be able to handle these operational challenges, scale remains a concern. Here, though, the main concern is about how to scale the member base without losing the magic that made it successful so far. Sam says, a community, if it gets too big and too fast, it sucks. There's no culture and there's no soul to it. To hit Sam's goal of creating a 100 million ARR business, Hampton will have to grow to tens of thousands of members while keeping things feeling intimate. This is a challenge that Jessica says keeps me up at night. We're only going to get bigger, so how do you really create the magic feel while it's still growing? At lunch, they said they were capping membership to 1,000 people. Maybe we'll expand that to 2,000, said Sam at the time. We don't have a plan. All we said is let's get to 1,000 and then we'll reassess. Well, they've passed 1,000, and it seems they now have a plan to grow further, decentralization. We decided to create a chapter-based system that allows the community to grow in the best ways and yet also stay intimate in the best way possible, they've said Hampton website. Hampton has had a decentralized model from early on with its city hubs. There are what they call Tier 1 cities, like San Francisco, New York, Austin, and LA, and Tier 2 cities, Denver, Philly, Charlotte, San Diego, Nashville, Boston, and Phoenix. They prioritize applicants in certain cities at different times to build regional densities. However, what they've also found is that they don't need to be the ones running all the things. Facilitators and even members can too. As Jessica notes, members began to self-organize and arrange their own events, so they're now doubling down on this. We found members in our major cities, and we signed them as a social chair and give them a budget, explains Jessica. They support them in hosting dinners, providing them with a playbook, including discussion topics, that Hampton provides. They're putting together kits that they can send to these hosts to help them. For example, for the Miami one, I made the table seatings on a spreadsheet, sent her place cards on Amazon, and then she filled them out. We're also trying this with adventures too. For instance, a member is hosting a golf tournament at Pinehurst Golf Retreat. If it goes well, we'll try to empower more members to do stuff like this, and hopefully we'll increase our event output and quality. The other thing they're doing to keep the intimate feel is prioritizing in-person events. They started testing these in June 2024. Seemingly encouraged by their results, they've now begun to switch core group meetings from digital to in-person, starting with New York, Austin, Miami, Chicago, and San Francisco first. Though Sam notes that this is hard because you've got to trust your members, it's scary. Fingers fucking crossed. So there you have it. That's how Hampton built a $1 million community. Community is one of those businesses that people don't actually take seriously, says Sam. But they will in about 5 years when we finally release some of our numbers. A little over 2 years in, they've made some great progress. I'm excited to watch their progress to Sam's $100 million a year goal. Takeaways. Build a consistent audience across experiments. Like Daniel at Small Bets, you can see the through line in Sam's career that helped him build the right audience for Hampton to achieve quick success. From HustleCon and The Hustle to the My First Million podcast, building up a network of tech-enabled founders, and Sam could quickly validate whether the community model was going to work for his business. His ideas and experiments may have spanned multiple business types, but by building a consistent audience meant he had the people on tap when the right thing came along. Tackle operational challenges from the outset. Community businesses are always operationally heavy. Like a dedicated tooling and a desire to fulfill often unique member needs means you'll always be needing to cobble together a mix of tools and manual processes. It means building the ability to scale your community business in the right way, like Hampton's decentralized model. It was being proactive in creating opportunities to free up your time, whether that's for your software automation or leveraging outsourced resources like the agencies, facilitators, and members. Make sure you can concentrate on building the community, not running it. Don't underprice your membership. Many businesses start out with low prices and then raise them over time. But as Sam learned from the trends, you can price yourself into a poor member experience. Make sure your pricing doesn't just work for your members' wallets, but enables you to create the member experience you want to deliver.